I run a non-for-profit organization back in the city of Chicago, focused on boys and young men of color. So a good day for me starts at the top of the morning. I'm the father of 3 boys. I'm a husband to a beautiful, phenomenal wife. And so I make sure that I rise early because my innate spirit, my ability is to pour each and every day in each and every way, whomever I come in contact with. So the first thing that I do in the morning, I fill Darius up, right? And whatever that is. Some mornings it's exercising, some morning it's meditation, some morning it's prayer, some morning it's NPR. But I fill up on Darius, yeah? Yeah, I listen to it. Boom, millennial bubble busted. Right? So that happens. So I'm the first up. Then I have 3 boys that wake up. 3 black boys that I raised on the south side of Chicago. And I affirm them. I love them. I tell them they're going to be everything today. Then I have a wife, and I make sure I make her breakfast, and I make sure I do for her, because my ministry starts at home first. And then the next thing is I go out into the world. I now move through my organization, my non-for-profit organization that partners with so many folks. The evil private sector, allegedly. Bad government, allegedly. The Faith Foundation. And so all of my conversations or just one-on-one conversations with young people that I mentor. But I'm pouring. I'm constantly pouring. I'm constantly open to the conversations that I have with folks within my organization, whether it's direct staff, and I'm like, why couldn't you do this, right? Or if it's with funders and say, no, this is what we do. This is what you want us to do. Let's figure out an alignment. And then the last thing that happens is just from a community, from a social perspective, right? It's a great day for me if I could feel good about myself, if my son and my family feel good about themselves, if I go out into the work of our community and staff feels well, the young people that we're serving well, the families are feeling well. It's another thing to make my way down the South Loop, to make my way to the 5th floor of City Hall, or maybe to go down to the trust, or maybe to go down to a private corporation, to a West Loop business, and them to see me, and me to see them, and us have conversations that move narratives forward that weren't just about the gun violence that happened in the south side of Chicago or the west side of Chicago, or that weren't the hot topic triggers that give us back into our silos, into our stereotypes. And so at each moment of my day, whether I weave myself as a black person, as an individual, just as a human, whether I weave my family, whether I weave my organization, whether I weave my city at large, that looks like a good day for me.
Thank you for that.
I actually want to ask a question. Mm-hmm. How many of you all were birthed of a mother, a woman? Like you lived in a uterus, probably 6, 7, 8, 9, 9.5 months. How many of you lived in a uterus of a woman? Most of you. Okay, yeah. Good. Congratulations. We have something in common now, right? Right? So I hear you think a lot about children, right? I think about moms. Because that's where that first relationship begins, right? We have this relationship. I'm a mama of 5. My youngest will be 5 sometime soon. My oldest just turned 23 on Monday, last Monday. And all I think about is postpartum. How many of you had a wonderful postpartum experience?
I reached down.
Yeah. Yeah. What's going on with our culture that our mamas don't have this wonderful, beautiful experience after they've had a baby? How are we not nurturing that relationship there? That's what I practice. I'm a mother nurturer. I go into women's homes, and this is where I see in our country the disconnect happening in the home, when you have a mama who is sitting and she wants to hold her baby, and she's 6 weeks postpartum, and she's crying, not joyful tears, but fearful tears. because the anxiety is happening here. She has depression or anxiety kicking in. And I see this over and over and over and over and over and over and over. I feel like that's what's happening in our communities, is the disconnect between mamas and their babies, because we're not nurturing the mama. And I've studied other cultures, and I know that in other cultures, when I talk to the mama, they say, oh, I felt taken care of. I felt like royalty. I was treated like royalty, and we don't get that here. But if we don't have someone who's going to love on us, we can't make that connection. Our brains are rewiring in this fight or flight pattern, this sympathetic nervous system. And we're having a difficult time making the connection.
Nataki Lee,
Tell me.
when you're first meeting that mom, I was that mom.
Yeah.
So I can remember that feeling of not being taken care of in that moment. What do you say?
What am I saying?
What do you say? Yeah.
Oh, I don't walk in and say anything.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
In the spirit of the event, rather than leading with my organization, I'll invoke my family's history, because I believe that each one of us represents a chapter in the never-ending story of our ancestry. My dad is a playwright. He was taken as a political prisoner in the 70s in his native Chile. His crime? Writing and directing Libertad, Libertad, a play in protest of the dictator Pinochet. It went over about as well as you'd expect it to. And after years of torture, he made it out alive. He was luckier than many. And even luckier, he met my mom while living in exile in Paris. My mother's from Puerto Rico, the youngest of 12, and the first in her family to go to college. She got a graduate school scholarship in Paris. The two met at a theater festival where my dad pretended he had the perfect role for my mom, and she pretended she was an actress, and the rest is history. And even though it meant giving up their own theater dreams, my parents immigrated to the US so that my sister and I could have better educational opportunities, the kind of sacrifice that only a parent would make. And growing up in a home that was short on money but long on ambition taught me that parents' love for their children is the single greatest and most underutilized natural resource we have in education. So when I graduated from Harvard in 2009, I took that perspective with me through Teach for America into the classroom, packed up my bags, moved to Philly, and taught first grade in one of Philly's most impoverished barrios. In my students, I saw myself, and in their parents, I saw my parents. And the connection, it was deeper than just our shared language and complexion. It was the timeless truth you see in the eyes of any parent. My students' parents gazed at their children with the very same unconditional love, unbridled optimism, and unwavering commitment with which my parents had gazed at me. And yet our school and our system treated these families as liabilities rather than as assets. The way that I tell my family's story makes them sound erudite and worldly. But to my teachers, my parents were just pushy immigrants with bad English. Why don't we see in a low-income parent the very same love, commitment, and potential we so easily recognize in the parents in this room? In education, trust between families and the system has been ruptured, and I haven't found a better way to restore it than home visits. Springboard trains teachers to make themselves vulnerable in the family's home before asking the parent to be vulnerable in the school. The mutual trust between teachers and families paves the way for collaboration. Springboard builds skills through workshops that train parents to teach reading at home. and parents learn to be one-on-one literacy coaches for their kids at home, unlocking a world of instructional time that would be cost prohibitive to replicate in the classroom. There is no smaller classroom than a family's living room, and there is no better way to personalize instruction than through a parent. What could be more personal than a parent and their kid sharing a book at bedtime? And for every hour that a teacher does a workshop, families deliver 25 hours of instruction at home. Through their collaborative efforts, Springboard teachers and parents double kids' annual reading progress. And just as importantly, the experience of setting and achieving a goal with their children, families tell us, for many it's the first time they've done that. And that has implications far beyond literacy. It took a long time for the field to embrace the idea that all children can learn. It is Springboard's ambition and our charge to prove that all parents can teach. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome.